You've heard me speak loud and long about the Ivy League and other liberal elite universities indoctrinating students with radical far-left ideology. Harvard came in dead last for free speech among 248 colleges and universities, dead last. Now, you can check these numbers for yourself because they vary depending on who you ask and how the question is asked. But if you look at who is populating our faculties at universities nationwide, you're going to find that those with left-leaning ideology versus those with conservative ideology, the ratio is about 5-1. For every conservative professor, you're going to find 5 that are liberal. It shouldn't matter, because if you take a class in geography, then you ought to be learning geography. But we got an awful lot of professors who have a captive audience, and so they just decide it's time for them to start talking about what they think, what they believe.
Listen to the goddamn Beatle albums!
Hey, Professor, take it easy, will you?
Now, my kids are past college now, but I can tell you, if that was happening to them today, I would have a problem with paying for that. I would have a problem with some professor pushing their ideology instead of the topic they're supposed to be teaching. And if you've got somebody in college, you ought to be asking that question. Today's real story deals with that. Even here in good old Texas, we have university professors who are preaching their woke ideology and shutting down any student who dares to think critically, who dares to speak their mind, who dares to think for themselves. The one big difference here in Texas, we don't put up with that nonsense. Here are some headlines. A&M dean removed following student complaints over curriculum. Headline, Texas A&M's president fires an English professor after removing a dean and a department head. Headline, Texas A&M viral video over clash on gender content in class leads to removals. So, what happened in College Station? Well, this all started with a viral video that got posted on X, formerly Twitter, by State Representative Brian Harrison, who is a Republican, a conservative. It looks like this was hidden camera video by someone in class. The video shows a student challenging her professor for teaching gender identity and LGBTQ-related content in a children's literature course.
I just have a question because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching.
Now, children's literature, not women's studies. This is not a class on gender. If you read the description for the class, what was being taught was not included in the course description. Let's listen to the video and break down the conversation.
Just kind of a recap of our remarks on gender and sexuality moving from last class.
Now, it's faint, and you might have to stop and go back and listen to it again, but you hear the professor say she is going to recap remarks on gender and sexuality. Now, listen to the student's response.
I just have a question because I'm not entirely sure this is legal to be teaching. Because according to our president, there's only 2 genders, and he said that he would be freezing agencies funding programs that promote gender ideology. And this also very much goes against not only myself, but a lot of people's religious beliefs. And so I am not going to participate in this because it's not legal, and I don't want to promote something that is against our president's laws, as well as against my religious beliefs.
And then the professor goes on to say the student is wrong.
You certainly have the right to engage in things that you find right. And you suggest to be false.
Yes.
You are under a misconception that what I'm saying is true.
And this student will not stop her from teaching things that are biologically true.
I'm not convinced that your proposal will be effective in stopping me from teaching things that are biologically true.
Okay, here's the problem. This professor is not a biology teacher. She's not trained in biology. She teaches children's literature. Now, there are 3 other big issues here. Not the class this student signed up for. That's what I was saying before. If you sign up to get some training in a particular subject matter, and you get in there and they're teaching something else, that's a problem. Why? Because you paid to get that information, and very soon you're going to be out here selling that information. You're going to be looking for a job that assumes you've been trained in this subject matter. And if instead of that subject matter, you were getting gender ideology by somebody that's not trained to be giving it, and you're not getting what you signed up to get. Second, the professor is indoctrinating students with woke ideology, which they didn't sign up for. Had they signed up for that and they were getting that, I have no problem with that. It doesn't matter what you think or don't think about it. If you sign up to find out what that's all about, no problem. And third, it's against university policy. And by the way, this is not new. Here's a student's review of the class from 2 years ago on the Corsical app. It says the professor, quote, preaches the liberal gospel and forces down her religious love of all things woke. Now, all that aside, let's focus on what happened next. The professor asked the student to leave the classroom.
Because I do have the legal and ethical authority, all of the professional expertise in this classroom.
Okay. Yeah, no, I am.
Now, let me get this right. The student signed up for the class, paid the tuition, expressed her views, truly held views, and was asked to leave the classroom, not to continue the discussion, not to hear the student out, but to tell her, if you don't like it, leave. Now, after the video was released, Texas A&M President Mark A. Welsh III swiftly removed the dean and department head from their positions. President Welsh posted, quote, they approved plans to continue teaching course content that was not consistent with the course's published description. If we allow different course content to be taught from what is advertised, we let our students down. Texas Governor Abbott responded, good. Now fire the professor who acted contrary to Texas law, which Texas A&M soon did. President Welsh said in his next post, following full consideration of the facts related to this situation, I directed the provost to terminate the professor involved effective immediately. Please understand that these decisions were mine alone and were not made lightly. The Texas Conference of the American Association for University Professors posted, academic freedom, which Texas A&M endorses, refers to instructors' right to teach their area of expertise free from government interference. But what about interference from those pushing an agenda? What about a student's right to learn? If you hire someone and pay them to teach a course curriculum, which students knowingly sign up for and pay for, and that person fails to do it, is that not a violation of their contract? What about a student's right to learn? What about them getting what they paid for? When someone like this professor embraces victimhood culture, they bully others into embracing their story and accepting their ideologies, in this case, to the point of telling them, if you don't like it, leave. At the end of the day, it's not enough to say, quote, I'm a victim. Victimhood culture requires others to join in the chorus and sing along. We're all victims.
Oh, woe is me. My life is a misery.
Far-left ideologies create a mindset of oppressor and oppressed. That's a filter through which it seems more and more life experiences get run. That instead of owning a problem, they just blame somebody else and they become a victim. Is that what we want to teach our children? Not only are we allowing these bullies to rob us of our right to free expression, don't like it, leave, but we're allowing these same fringe factions to rewrite history. What happened to common sense? We cannot allow academics to put ideology ahead of evidence just so they can feel cutting edge or forward thinking. This is what they believe, so the hell with empiricism, the hell with objectivity, the hell with facts. This is what we want to believe. We don't have evidence for it. Forget 1,000 years of fact. This is the avant-garde viewpoint, and we want you to not only hear it, but stand up and pledge to believe and support it. We cannot tell our students to suspend critical thinking and accept it because I'm a professor and I know better. Look, we tell our children to respect adults. We tell our children to respect authority figures. We've raised them that way. Have we done it at the expense of critical thinking? Do we need to not tell our children, our young people, our teens and young adults, you have the right to think for yourself. You have the right to respectfully question what someone is telling you. We're not telling you to go in there and be belligerent and disrespectful and call a professor stupid or to in some way be disruptive to class. But you do have the right to think for yourself. You do have the right to be a critical thinker. You do have the right to raise your hand and stand up and say, Professor, with all due respect, I've reviewed an entire body of literature here that disagrees with what you're saying. May we discuss that? That's critical thinking. It's not being disrespectful. It's being self-possessed. It is critical thinking. And that's the real story. Wherever you're getting the real story, make sure you subscribe and follow. I'll see you Monday. This message is sponsored by Greenlight. Parenting gets easier as kids get older. They can grab their own snacks and even help clean up, sometimes. But what never gets easier? Teaching them about money. Kids won't truly learn to manage money until they get hands-on experience. And now that's where Greenlight comes in. Greenlight is a debit card and money app for families with games and a chores feature. Kids learn to connect hard work with rewards. My life would have been so much easier if I had Greenlight for my kids first. Greenlight is the #1 family finance and safety app, trusted by millions of families. Don't wait to teach your kids real-world money skills. Start your risk-free Greenlight trial today at greenlight.com/Phil. That's greenlight.com/Phil to get started. greenlight.com/Phil.